Welcome.
Yeah, Jamila, you can start.
Okay. A warm welcome to everyone who has joined us on this session on behalf of All India Women's Conference. As the members here know that we have been doing this cultural and literary forum meetings once every month and without a break except for 1 month, particularly during the COVID period. So this is a very prestigious literary and cultural forum for the local chapter, that is a Trivandrum chapter, of which Ms. Usha is the zonal officer and Mrs. Indra Ramakrishna Andy is the president of the Trivandrum chapter. So a very warm welcome once again and greetings to all the members, all the well-wishers, and of course our speaker of the day, Dr. Shaji. Today's topic is women and natural disasters. There's a significance for this because, as you all know, we celebrate the International Women's Year this month on the 8th. So we thought that it would be a great thing to focus on what happens to women during natural disasters. So Dr. Shaji and I had to sit for a little time on the topic, but I think we came up with a very good focus for today's session on the risks and the resilience of women during natural disasters. Now, as I was thinking about this topic, I was reading up a little and I was very surprised to know that during disasters, there is a disproportionate killing of women and girls by these disasters. In the cyclone Gorky, which hit Bangladesh in 1991, which caused about 140,000 deaths, the proportion was 14:1. I was very surprised. For every man who died during that disaster, 14 women died. And then yet again, during the Indian Ocean tsunami in 2004, 70% of the 250,000 fatalities were women. It was really very surprising, and I wondered why this happened. And some of the reasons that researchers and scientists like Dr. Shaji have come up with is that this is mainly because of social, economic, cultural, gender disparities that exist in society. We all know that women are more homebound than men. To leave the home and seek refuge in a disaster is something that women will hesitate to do. And so they stay longer in their homes instead of finding shelters. And that may be one of the reasons. Another reason that scientists have put forward is that because of cultural reasons and because of religious reasons, women don't want to go to these shelters. One of the interesting things that I read was that in Sri Lanka, when the tsunami hit in 2004 in the Indian Ocean, many of the women were taking a bath in the sea because it was a religious cultural custom to dip themselves in the sea on the east coast of Sri Lanka during that particular period, and they were swept away into the sea. So there are many reasons why perhaps, and another reason that came up was that they do not know swimming. Men learn swimming, but women hesitate to learn swimming in many societies for cultural reasons. They are not allowed to swim in the same waters. So these may be the reasons. And we also know that economic reasons and gender disparities are also common factors in the fact that more women are susceptible to risks and dangers than men. Also, one of the things that I found very interesting was there is the UN Disaster Risk Reduction Framework by the Sendai Framework. There is a comment which I found very, very interesting, and this was it. Women are critical to effectively manage disaster risk, and their participation is essential in designing, resourcing, and implementing gender-sensitive disaster risk reduction policies, plans, and programs. So this also shows that though women are at one end of what you would call the calamities, they can also play a very significant role in reducing the risks and the fatalities and the resilience with which women can work will eventually help towards making women stronger and more resilient. These are this is as I was thinking, there are two sides to this particular topic that we have chosen. One is the way in which natural disasters affect women, and the other is how women can, through their resilience, through their participation and their thinking, can give very positive feedback to how to manage these disasters, because many of these disasters are inevitable. The cyclones that have come to us, the tsunamis, the landslides, the tornadoes, the hurricanes that have come to many parts of the world. So natural disasters are inevitable. So the question that is posed before us is, how can we manage these disasters? Well, how can human resources, particularly the women resources, be used in minimizing the risk factors and the dangers? Before I welcome Dr. Shaji to this forum, I would also like to mention something which I found very sad, and that is, when women go to these shelters, they are also susceptible to violence. So because of their gender, girls and women have been subjected to the violence of men. And a lot of women have reported this. So maybe that's one of the reasons they hesitate to go to shelters. And even after these disasters, for racial reasons and for economic reasons, they are violated. So we live in a world that I would say is not a haven of peace and happiness. We live in a world that is fraught with dangers. It is fraught with violence, and we need to work earnestly to bring in peace and resolve this situation as far as possibly we can. Now, having said this, I would now like to introduce the speaker of the day, and that is Dr. Shaji, who is currently working as professor and head in the Department of Geology, University of Kerala. That is my own university. He was awarded PhD from Kerala University, and he was a first rank holder of MA Geology from the same university. And he has a professional experience as hydrogeologist in the Central Groundwater Board, Ministry of Water Resources, Government of India. I was searching for Dr. Shaji's CV on the net, and I came across a photograph in which he is standing along with other scientists from Japan and China, and that was the geoscience conference that he attended some time back. So he has traveled widely to many countries like Japan, China, UAE, UK, Madagascar, Japan, Sri Lanka. So these are some of the other countries that he have gone to. And he is also the award winner, the scientist award winner from Kerala State Council for Science, Technology and Environment of the Government of Kerala. He writes extensively research papers in international journals like Geoscience Frontiers. He's also an editor of Geoscience Frontiers. So we have a very eminent, versatile, and I know a very ground-to-earth person with us to talk about the ground realities of natural disasters, women, their risks, and their resilience. So a warm welcome to Dr. Shaji on behalf of all the members who have gathered here and the AIWC. So welcome to all the others who have joined us on this forum. And I now request Dr. Shaji to make his presentation.
Thank you, Professor Jamila teacher and other distinguished members of this forum and the participants. I'm extremely thankful to Jamila teacher for inviting me to this important meeting of your organization. And Usha ma'am also contacted me for this particular purpose. And I'm delighted to be here with you to share some of my thoughts. Probably there was a bit confusion about the title of the talk initially, but we resolved somehow to some extent that, you know, I will just share. Is it visible, ma'am?
Yeah, right, it is.
It is visible, right? So the full screen, is it full screen or not full screen?
It is a full screen.
No, slide.
The slides are on the left.
Now it's okay.
Yeah, now it's okay.
So good evening all. I'll be, you know, sometimes I may not be focusing especially on, you know, women and disasters, but as Jamila teacher said, you know, they are the most vulnerable group now. So there are many terms associated with the disasters. So when you look at this picture, we can see that they are actually the most affected people. If you take whether it is a natural disaster or a human-induced disaster. Nowadays, you know, people are reluctant to use the man-made disaster because that is also a gender-sensitive term. Therefore, now, you know, we are using it as an anthropogenic or human-induced disaster. So when you look at the definition of disaster, there is a confusion. Maybe you are all very experienced people and you have attended many international and national conferences on, particularly on disasters, resilience, etc. But among students, at least there is a confusion. What is the difference between disaster and hazard? So suppose if there is a scooter accident in a road, so can we call it as a disaster? No, because that you can manage. 2-3 people can manage, and you can bring a ambulance, and you can have some sort of a rescue operations, and you can do that. So that we can call it as it is a disaster. It can be called it as a hazard. But if you want to call it as a disaster, it should be beyond the coping capacity of the community. That is very important. The community in the sense of, so I just thought, you know, in terms of, you know, if you talk about women, so in a particular house, she is being harassed or she is being attacked. She could not, you know, resist that attack. Then I would like to term it as a disaster because she could not cope with that particular incident. Then that may be happening to a particular woman or a group of women. You can call it as a disaster because that is beyond the coping capacity of them or that particular individual. So the disaster, when you talk in terms of the women perspective, I believe that we have to redefine certain concept and definitions, because it is not only giving substantial loss to life and property, it is attacking the morale, the standing of a individual. That's what happens in many, as teacher was rightly said, you know, when they are moved to a rehabilitation center, they have been harassed in different ways. So actually the disaster is there on one side, and they have been shifted from that disaster front and moved to a rescue center. There also they are being harassed. So that is also can be called as a sub-disaster or on a subhead of that particular disaster. So in a natural disaster, we are creating another set of, you know, series of disasters that is silently taking place. nobody is sometimes projecting that sort of a attack, particularly on the women community. That's what I am, with this slide, I was trying to stress. Hope you understood what I meant was. So then there is a term called a risk in the title. What is the risk? Okay, risk in the sense, suppose if you are, all of you are sitting maybe in a, sometimes it is air conditioner, or above you have there is a fan. Okay, so when you look above, it looks safe. If you remove some of the nuts, bolts, etc., that become a risk, because you are just just below you are sitting. And maybe Valsa ma'am, you can just see that fan is on just above your head. So far it is not a risk. So far it is not a risk, but somebody removes that bolt or something, that becomes a risk. Therefore, people are panic about the Mullaperiyar now, because that is a risk. Because if you look at this just like this picture, you are there. So this is the vulnerability. So the risk is actually, sometimes we may not appreciate what exactly is the risk. When it hits on you, then only understand, okay, that is a risk, that is a disaster, that was a disaster that was there. So that is, sometimes we may not be able to understand what exactly. So how to solve it? So either you can tighten the bolt, or you can yourself, you can just move away from that particular risk. That is called the management. So a disaster risk is actually the amount of risk, or the degree of the risk into the vulnerability. Vulnerability means the group of people, they are actually susceptible for that particular disaster or particular hazard. So nowadays, the capacity building is increased because of the awareness programs, such initiatives of your organizations and the State Disaster Management Authority and Central Disaster Management Authority, UN, all are working to increase the capacity of the people, so that you can reduce the risk. So therefore, in everywhere, when you look at the airport, or when you look at the flood, when you look at the dams, how we can reduce the risk, that's what people are thinking, government is thinking, and the organizations are thinking. And any disaster, if you take, for example, natural or anthropogenic, the women community are largely affected. So that is being addressed in many forums. Even in the last Glasgow conference also it has been addressed, but still it continues. That is the problem. So the term resilience, you know that, but the resilience is the capacity to recover quickly from the difficulties. Because I have visited, because I am studying some of the aspects of disasters in Kerala. When you go to a landslide disaster area or a flood affected area, so we are thinking that the resilience capacity is good. Actually, not so good. Either they are still suffering a mental trauma, or some financial instability. Something is, still going on in their mind, and their education and their day-to-day activities, everything is disturbed. So I think it takes more time than what we think. It is their capacity to recover has to be analyzed. So the ability of the system, the ability of the community, ability of the society, those who are exposed to the hazard, to resist or absorb or accommodate or adopt or transform, recover from the effect of the hazard in a timely and efficient manner. That efficiency has to be proved, especially in the multi-hazard prone state like Kerala. We are actually prone to a multi-hazard like flood. Now we can expect a drought in coming months. We are, there is I don't have the map here, but we are also under threat of earthquakes, small earthquake, lightning, and epidemics, of course. And there are certain landslides, and there are soil piping, well collapsing, water quality issues. All these things are, happening in Kerala, that most of the problems now. though we are blessed with copious rainfall and plenty of water resources, the per capita availability of fresh water is diminishing. There is a considerable imbalances in the availability of resources in the state. All these things are there, and we are getting the unexpected disasters as well. So just I will scan through some of the terms. That is the natural disasters. It can be water and climate related. So everywhere there is a climate change and the disasters. They are saying, because the climate is changing across the globe, so the disasters are inevitable. Then the geologically related disasters, that's called the earthquakes, volcanoes, landslides, tsunami, etc. That is, sometimes some of them are predicted, some of them are not able to predict. So the geological hazards can expect anytime. Then there are chemical, industrial, and nuclear related disasters. Then biologically related disasters, human-induced disasters, many accidents, household harassments and things like that. All these can be called as a human-induced disasters. So when you categorize the issues, so when you are living in a corporation or panchayat, main issues are these issues also we can consider for management. That is the waterlogging in area. There, the women are more affected, waterlogging, because as Jamila Madam was talking about the inability to swim by the girls and the women. So the gutters in the road, tree fall, fire, maybe in the fire at home, or the gas leak, all these things in the that level. So when you take, because I am talking this because all these are related one way or other to the women community. Then if you take a district, you can have flood, landslide, fire, health, and industrial emergencies. All these things comes, and drought, fire, flood, heavy rain, cyclones, flood, drought, heavy rain, earthquakes, terrorism, nuclear explosion, etc. So international level, they are thinking about a disaster of larger magnitude, displacement due to conflicts and the epidemics, other disasters. Now, if you look at the war, and so the who will respond to all these things? The local police. So now the women are there in the police force also, and the disaster risk force also. The local people, fire and rescue, and at the district level, maybe the emergency response officers, and the state level officers, national level agencies, and international level agencies. So this may be, if you look at the period, it may be in days. So day after days, it will disappear. It can affect weeks. It can affect weeks and months. So the national level is months, and it goes years. Okay. So the source of funding, that is also important, whether we are getting sufficient funding. So the response fund we have, so some of them are listed as disasters. So some of them are not listed also. So the fund may be very difficult to give for them. So the panchayat level and the district level, the funds are response fund. Okay. Then in the state also, we are getting some central fund or annual budget allocation of the state. And national level, you have a budget, National Disaster Management Authority, and all these things. Then many institutions are international level, they are also funding. So the disasters, when you look at the biologically related disaster, that can be epidemics. So whether how that has to be analyzed, because what is the percentage of women if affected, and how many people are dying, all these things, that gender ratio has to be calculated. I mean, these what is the result gives from this particular pandemic called COVID. Then the pest attack, food poisoning, how the women are affected by food poisoning, because the food adulteration is a common in Kerala, you can know now. I think nowhere, I think in India it is there, but this type of food adulteration, how it is being affected to the women, that is to be checked. And how the children are affected, because the hotels, many hotels, they are still giving, I do not know why they are this adulterated and the bad quality food they are supplying. Because, the term prosperity has to be redefined. Earlier in Malayalam, Sambal Samriddhi, that was the term, we used. We would like to somehow earn money. We don't bother about the other aspects and who is the sufferers and etc. So the prosperity, I believe that it is the feeling that you have enough. So we don't have that feelings still. We want more money. So we are actually invariably inviting some problems. I don't know whether that can be called as a disaster. So when we will have that feeling that we have enough house, we have enough car, we have enough food at least. So that sort of feeling you should have. Then only you can say that you are prosperous. And happiness. Teacher was talking about happiness. Actually, I don't know. The happiness is decreasing. I say, if you're around, you have enough physical infrastructure, but you are not happy. Happiness is a decision. If you want to be happy, you have to decide. Other nobody can make you happy. It is your decision that, okay, today I am happy because with this, whatever I have around, I'm happy. So that happiness should come. Then the man-made disaster, that is still, I'm using this word here because it's international level also, this man-made disaster is being, but we have to change it as an anthropogenic. The fire is everywhere, it is happening. The bomb blast, air and road and railway accidents, if you look at the innocent people, okay. Then the boat accidents, the major building collapse, in Ernakulam, you know that they have violated the coastal regulation, and we have permitted them to construct. Actually, that the many of them I have seen are the homemakers or the women. They were crying, in fact, before demolishing that particular flats. I say that is a disaster because we are allowing them to construct flats and selling them, then saying that you have violated, you just demolish it. The mental agony which we are creating, that is also a disaster. So that is the agony we should understand. Then the food tragedy, illicit liquor tragedy, nowadays the drug abuse. I believe that there is a data that even the girls, they started using it. It is a kind of a disaster. It is a kind of a disaster that is intruding into the culture of the society. It is being silently, we are accepting, okay, it is okay, it's a fun. Because, the boys are drinking, let the girls also drink and take the drug. We have to think in terms of whether that creates any sort of a disaster, because this can invite invariably some sort of a imbalance in the community, among the society. I am not saying that completely we can stop, but that slowly it will become a disaster. That can be a homely disaster. It can lead to some other disaster. I don't know how to explain that particular drug abuse aspect. Nobody so far termed it as a disaster, but I should say that we have to think it seriously. That is going to be another disaster. Not like, the earthquake, you cannot predict that, but this sort of things you can control to some extent. Then the family suicides. You people are, you might have talked more about this family suicides and the innocent students and other sorts of attacks. So that essentially, since most of you are teachers, very experienced, now what I understood was, there is in the education process, there is in the initial stage, we call it as an anugaran. Anugaran means it is the imitation. You will imitate when you are a kid, or you can just monitor your small kids, they will imitate it. After that, you will have a discipline. That is the education. That may not be a school or college education alone, That will be from the home, from the society. That means from that you will learn to become a disciplined person. After that, you will become a self-disciplined. But nowadays, there is another term that was there, it has been there all through, right from the beginning. That is called avashasan. That means indiscipline. So the percentage of indiscipline is increasing. So there is a conflict now. Animal consciousness versus human consciousness. The percentage of, I am not blaming the animal, but the just a term I am used. The consciousness means you have a courage to do anything. You attack your elderly people, you attack a woman, you attack a small child, or you attack the nature. Everything you can do because your consciousness permits that. Maybe after some time you believe that, oh, sorry, I should not have done that. So the percentage of the consciousness, whether you are more disciplined, self-disciplined, or indisciplined. So these days, there is an imbalance between these two factors. What I am saying, that the animal consciousness versus human consciousness in us. So that sort of a dominance, especially among male, gives them a freedom to attack women. It is just, they take it as a, they have everything. They have a power about the women that they assume somehow. But after some time, after that particular incident, they may realize also. So that is when I say that the family suicide, so family system, there are certain problems that you can term it as a disaster. Then environmental disasters, it is there. Then communal rights still going on. Even in many parts of India, it's going on. Maybe not in a big way, but small way. Then war. How number of the female students. We are, the other day I was talking about Jamila teacher. I was telling that we are still fond of, I don't know, we are crazy about the medical profession. And we are sending our kids to many places, but I do not know. It is good. I'm not saying that way, but the vulnerability the girl students are facing, we are not addressing properly. I don't want to comment on the war now taking place there. So if you look at here, you can see many girls here in this picture, many girls in North India. You can see here. This is the vulnerability. This is the disaster. This is the, this is what is happening around us. Look at the picture, how terrific. Not only men, there are women in this group. So the earthquakes, if you look at the data, as Jamila teacher said, around the 60%, if you take the entire history of earthquakes, there are more number of women died due to earthquakes than men. I do not know. Because the buildings kill people, not the earthquakes. If the earthquakes happens in a desert, nobody bothers whether it is a disaster. We will not call it as a disaster. Because the buildings and the infrastructure makes the disaster, not the earthquake. So the vulnerability increases to women because they could not escape so fastly. They do not know how to escape. They do not know where to take shelter when earthquakes happens. So that is an important question. Why 60% of them are women? Then tsunami. Teacher projected some data. That is true, absolutely true. If you take, for example, Kerala, Azhikal area, Kulachal area, and in parts of Tamil Nadu, in parts of Sri Lanka, many places, the number of deaths, if you analyze, you can see that the ratio is more in the women's side. Tsunami is actually, how it happens, the earthquake occurs in the bottom of the ocean. There the energy only creates such a gigantic waves. So that can be, again, it can come in our coast. And while I was doing a survey in the coastal belt, in certain places there are 3,000 people, staying in a 1 square kilometer area. 50% of them are female or women. So they are vulnerable along the coastal tract. The other place also, and 780 people are there that is the population density in 1 square kilometer. But in coastal set, it ran to 3,000 people. Some places it is more than that. And cyclones. We thought that earlier in the Kerala coast or the Lakshadweep or the Arabian coast is free of cyclones, but the data shows that we can expect more. There is an increase of 1.2% of cyclones in the Kerala coast. Just earlier it was in the other Bay of Bengal, that coast it was more affected, but East Coast. But now the West Coast also is prone to cyclones. So who is the most affected are, I will say 100% women. They may not be able to swim, they may not be able to run fast, and many issues for them. Some of them may be pregnant. You look at the pregnant women, how they manage. So sometimes they may run away, the other male, all people. So nobody will be there to take care. The elderly women, all these we have to take care. Then landslides. Landslides, in the Pettimudi, I think there were more women in the Lambs, the downside of that particular landslide area. And if you move around, you can see in the tea plantation, many workers are women. So they are all vulnerable now. They are all vulnerable. Many places still we have such lambs where there are, in one house, around 10 people are staying. They are not aware of these landslides. Now they are aware a little bit, but they don't know whether their house is safe or not. I'm talking about Kerala. Nobody is surveyed in that line. How many people are there? What is the percentage of women living in such a landslide prone area of Western Ghat? We don't have data. So as we know that, in the night, the landslide occurs, it may have different consequences. All these things we have to consider. Flood. We know that 2018, 2019, severe flood we had. We can expect more. So the number of people drowned are women than men. The data shows like that. And drought. Drought means, they are the most, because drought, we are not that much worried with, but when you travel across India, you can find that, the women community are, responsible for bringing water to the home. They are the homemakers. Even if you go to the Palgad eastern part, you can see that. So the drought is also mostly because the women folk are more worried about drought, I can say in other words, because they are responsible for somehow, they identify that, the society identified that they are responsible for bringing safe drinking water to the home. And lightning, 70% are dying per annum. That is the data. So this is also another vulnerability. And the epidemics. So who is looking after who? All these are the questions, okay? Whether the husband will take care of wife or vice versa. The percentage of the male taking care of the female is also another debatable data. And when a pandemic occurs, just like COVID comes, who are the sufferers? These are the things, we are talking about the equality and everything, but who are more vulnerable and who who are getting more mental agony. That is important. And accidents. Yesterday also, in my, I am staying in Trivandrum, Nagar colony. One of my neighbors, I think they died in an accident. Two ladies died actually. And it is near Muatupura, you can, in today's newspaper. So there also, if you take the number, I don't know, I'm saying that in accidents, but somehow they are the victims, or somehow they are more vulnerable in accidents also. And fire, rescue operations, all these things are there, but we should be careful about fire. So these are the districts with multi-hazard. In Kerala, if you look at that, our entire districts are multi-hazard, or more hazards we can expect, or disasters. This is the map of India. In many, it is increasing actually everywhere. So the disasters are inevitable. Whether it is a natural or anthropogenic, it is inevitable. You can expect any time. So always expect the unexpected. That is the situation now. So this is another area where, you know, the women are to be careful. LPG cylinder safety. There are certain safety measures and all. What is this number indicates, and what is they should actually understand. We can see there are many numbers, many writings, all these things. At least they should look at all these things. What does it exactly mean? And such type of awareness also is important. And because, you know, how it happens, what are the danger and all. And fires in many flats now we are living, and such type of fires, they are more vulnerable. Just some of the pictures and the classification of fire. You can say there are 4 types of fires: class A, class B, class C, and class D. The cooking gas fire is called gas C fire. That is more dangerous. Gas D is a little more metal, or these things. So all these type of fire awareness, all these things are important, especially for women community. And you know, the mock drill. I think more in mock drill, the women are very sparingly used, but I'm not saying that they should be used, but some training should be there for, and mostly the rescue operations, sometimes very difficult. They are a little bit afraid of all these things. So more mock drill should be done, especially in flats and things like that. Otherwise, you know, when you evacuate from a particular place, they will be panic. So people should see what a mock drill is, and they should be aware, at least among women, such mock drill should be, you should be present there. You see how they are doing. Nowadays, we are, I mean, especially women, I noticed that they are reluctant to see such type of mock drills. They believe that, oh, it is something going on over there, we don't want, but you should see that. To get a courage, to get more courage during the rescue operations. Such mock drill should be given as an awareness program among the, especially young girls in women's college or something like that, or in the women community should be given more awareness about the such type of. Then mass casualty management also. Some of the women are there in the forefront, but in the mass casualty management also, the role of women is very important. They should be included in that team. Nowadays it is there, and so that they will get a more responsibility, and they can also do better job, just like the men does. Okay, and such type of activities. So these are some of the fire. Actually, this is important for the especially the women, because they have to dial 101 and know the escape routes. Suppose fire is there, how you escape. Keep bucket of water and blanket, so you can, you know, sometimes, you know, fire cannot set aside with the help of water alone, but you can have some blankets you can use. So your clothes, and unplug all electrical appliances. Suppose if you are seeing that gas leakage is there or something like that, so then dehydration, everything will happen. Okay, so you have to keep water with you. Then once in a while you should do some fire auditing at your home or at your office or something. Then electrical inspection. Then as I said, the mock drill, everything. And some of the symbols, chemical symbols. This is one. Suppose if you are going just backside of a vehicle, some of the vehicles will have some sort of a symbols like this. So we should be very careful. We should not so very close to that particular vehicle. Okay, you have somehow, this is explosive. Sometimes that vehicle will be carrying explosive. So such symbols are also very important. So this symbol, the second symbol is flammable gas. Third symbol is flammable liquid. Third one is spontaneously combustible. This is an oxidizing agent. Some of the vehicles will be carrying radioactive material. Some of them are very toxic material. This is actually, all these things are there when you see a very large truck, we just see it as a truck. Sometimes it may be transporting a toxic one. They will be parking in a place. Sometimes we are not supposed to go very close to that also. So all these things we should observe. What essentially that vehicle carries. Actually, it is mandatory. They should display all these things. You might have seen such symbols. And, the women are in the forefront of rescue operations. Where to give the priority, whether there is a dead girl, where there's an old man who is seriously wounded and unconscious, a bird, and a young baby lying at the disaster site, an old lady who is walking towards you crying loudly, an old man who is seriously wounded and unconscious, a 3-year-old child crying out her mother, a teenage girl who is dead, an injured bird. If you are seeing in a site, you can prioritize to whom we will rescue. And because there is a term called triage, that means there is a color tag. So when you go to a disaster site, you will get 3 tags. One is called a red tag, other one is called yellow tag, other one is called green tags. Okay, you can, if you identify certain persons, you can have a red tag. Red tag means those about to die should not do that. There are very young girl, I mean, she's seriously injured, but that can be rescued. You know that. So you put a red tag there. Then the doctors will take that girl first. Their attention goes to that.
तो स्लीपिंग ब्यूटी
नहीं मैं सुन ही रही हूँ मैम, मैं सुन रही हूँ।
चलने आपको
अभी जाएगा ना वापस?
Madam, any problem or some noise?
No, I think somebody had their mic on.
Fine. So the yellow tag means they are under observation. Green tags means they can wait. Okay, once the priority patients are moved, only the green tag patients. So they may be crying, but they don't have much problem. They are panicked because of the disaster situation. They don't have much wounds and all these things. But such type of the prioritizing, tagging, all these things we should learn when you are working in the disaster front. Okay. So when you look at that, the women, why they are the most vulnerable. So look at the number of pregnant women in the world. That means the data shows every 10 seconds, one baby is born. There is a mother, that you have to think, not about the baby I'm saying. There is a mother. You imagine about the mother, the situation, their situation when a disaster occurs. So this is the data. So that women are more vulnerable. They cannot run. They cannot enter into a vehicle, a packed vehicle. They cannot enter. So the rescue operation of such, vulnerable women are to be taken care. They are actually nursing. Who is doing that? In the hospitals, maybe now male nurses are 99 or 95% are women. They are rescuing. In fact, they are actually, people are thinking that, you know, the women are not there in the operation of the disaster management. They are there, I am saying. So they are invisible. Their services are not being recognized properly. The nurses, the services, the nurses in the hospital. So that is very, very, now you look at the sufferings of these sisters, nurses, those who are working in the forefront of the COVID. They are the real volunteers. We should salute them actually. That is the role we have to project. We are not projecting. Then the role of teachers. Look at the number of lady teachers or women, right from school to the higher education level, their contribution. So they are the people, they are educating now. Now the disaster is, or the vulnerability, everything is part of the curriculum. They are doing that. That is a big role there. Sometimes we may not appreciate that. The role of the women teachers in spreading the awareness of this type of disasters. Then the pilots. Nowadays they are coming up. Thieves, inspector, cook, doctor, and many more. Everywhere it is there. I don't know whether they only cook. That is also. We will call it as with a term called homemaker. So cooking is a property. So what is their sufferings there? And whether we are recognizing it properly. The struggle they are taking while making a home. So as teachers is actually much expertise in this set of defining such things, gender roles. So the varied roles and activities can be performed by both men and women. It is a cultural and societal norms that determine who does what. So there are certain rules that what women should do and men should do. I think we are saying that that has gone, but I think that is there as a hidden rule. We assume these roles and internalize them to be given or natural, while they are naturally dynamic and changeable. Some of them we are not ready to change also. Some of them we are not changing. So gender stereotypes occur when we apply generic attributes, opinions, roles towards either gender. The problem occurs when we find ourselves making assumptions about members of our own or opposite sex. Stereotypes result in the victim becoming unsure of themselves. All these are some of the terms I'm just showing you because still it prevails, therefore. Though we are claiming that we are equal. So what is gender? I do not know. You may be, more you can define on that. What is gender? So whether it is related to sex, sex is biologically determined, I know, but gender is socially determined still. It is socially determined. And the sex, if you take it, that's fixed and does not change with time. But gender is dynamic and changes with time. Sex does not vary over cultures, but gender differs from culture to culture. So one can be universal, one can be specific. All these are changeable. All these are dynamic, I'm saying, in terms of gender, I'm saying. We are trying to change that also. The people are born female or male, but learn to be girls and boys who grow into men and women.
Hi.
We learn what is appropriate behavior, attitude, role, etc. of being a man or a woman. This learned behavior makes up our gendered identity and determines our gender roles. So sometimes we call it as masculine, feminine. I don't know who we are and who are we. So most often they are the helpless victims when disaster occurs. That is still what do you think and what do you say? Still women are more vulnerable. That is there. And they are socially determined. As teacher said, if you take the Bangladesh cyclone and etc., among 20 to 44, the death rate was 70%, 71 per 1,000 compared to 15 per 1,000 men. 71 per 1,000 women and men 15 per 1,000. So the warning information transmitted between men in public spaces, but rarely to the family. Family was not aware of such things. The cyclone is going to come. But men were aware. Women were not allowed to leave the houses without a male relative. That was just like a rule. They died. So in the UN report, others say women and children are 14 times more likely to die than men during disasters. 14 times more likely to die than men during disasters. So there are many examples. If you read that, this was Dr. Jamila Begum was talking about, researchers find that, gender inequalities exacerbated in the aftermath of disasters, increase in workload of force many girls to drop out, even schools. They are forced to marry. All these things happen. So there are sexual abusing. Women and girls are more likely to become victims of domestic and sexual violence after a disaster, particularly when families have been displaced and are living in a overcrowded emergency or transitional housing where they lack privacy. Still, it is going on. When they have been shifted to a rehabilitation center, when the families have been displaced, the atrocities are increasing. So still the disaster risk management, adaptation to climate change, development, still it is actually act as a different compartment. So we want to be together. We don't want any discrimination, any gender or any sort of a discrimination. Everything should be in a closed system where that will have a mutual interaction. So the disaster risk reduction is a very important concept of UN and the other agencies. And another one, CCA, that is a climate change adaptation. These two terms are very important these days. Since I don't have time, teacher, what is the time I should stop? 5 more minutes?
Yeah. 5 more.
Fine. And these are some of the women leadership in reducing disaster risk. I'm not saying all these things. What I am saying that the capacity of the community, okay, that has to be increased. So how to increase that? You have to have a micro insurance scheme implemented in partnership with the insurance sector. So then only they can come up, or resilience capacity you can increase with only finance. So some of the micro insurance scheme has to be implemented, especially for the women. So they can come up. Okay, transfer of poor and vulnerable households risk to insurance market. Those who are, because that is called inherent risk. Those who are, because Mundakaim area I went after this landslide, there are many people, they are still living very close to the river. They don't have any property, they cannot move. Majority are women. What do you do? They don't have any house also. You transfer, or you give them some sort of insurance, at least coverage, so the disaster loss will be minimized. So the safer economic recovery and certain accountability, even in the coastal area also, some of the micro insurance scheme has to be. Then the education, we are doing it, that in the school level and all these things. Then the land use planning is also important. The women can play a big role in the land use planning system. Then the health and sanitation hygiene. Then tourism. The tourism, the disaster risk reduction, whether it has been linked, we do not know. Whether, suppose if a person is going to Kovalam, a girl is going alone to the pub, what are the disasters you can expect there? What are the hazards there? That you should develop an information system and a web portal with safety and response plan. So that, because these days, the girls travel alone, the women or some women they are traveling alone. So they should have a destination, but they should have a warning signs and safety measures at least in the website. So we can have many activities, and if you click here, I think so I will show you some of the things. Then you just see, look at I want to show this some of the pictures, and then I will stop. You see, in Marad Ernakulam area, this was the picture, aerial picture, Landsat picture, 2016. There was no flat. You look at the greenery here and the water body here. In 2019, this is the picture. There the flat came. Look at the green space we lost. I'm not saying that I don't think that I'm against development and all, but the greenery we are losing. And the particulate matter, we are increasing in the atmosphere. This particular flat has been asked to demolish, and now the picture is like this. It has been demolished. This is a disaster. This is a disaster. Now, this is the Lulu Mall. Prior to Lulu Mall, this was the green space in Trivandrum. Now it look like this. So the green space which we are losing, this also I call it as a disaster. Though directly we are not affecting, but it will badly affect the air quality around and the water quality around. Whether what is the measure we are taking? This is the biggest mall and all. It's very good. The coastal area is vulnerable now. This is the international airport. The Changumugam earlier we had a beach. Now there is no beach. You know that. So it is vulnerable. You can look at, so after, see, in an article I have written that within 5 years, our international airport will get seawater directly. See the distance, you can see here, this is the runway. And when a flat is constructed, we are not seeing that. This was original. This is after the site clearance, after that the flat coming up. But no, I'm not saying we are disturbing something, but this is this kind of activities which is which can invite something later. This is the coastal vulnerability. This is the Shangumugam area now. This is the kind of the waste we are disposing, and it is finally reaching to the sea, plastic and other menace. What are the consequences we are going to get from that? We don't know. That's also a disaster which we are inviting. So this is the Pettimudi I was talking about. So in these layams, majority are women. They are staying somewhere here and all. These all names are washed away during that this one. Rescue operations are there, and many problems are here. Okay. So the recommendations are already I said, because I don't have time, but I would like to show you that some of the 1 minute. The UN goals, they also say that this resilience and all these things are very important, especially for women. I opened that website. Okay. So this is one of the area where you can see that is called CBDRM. That means it is the community-based disaster risk management. So when you go to this website, there are many activities. There are many project partners. In India, it is called SEED India. Okay, SIED. There are many partners. They are doing all these activities. This is the SEED. You can see here SEED. You can go to the SEED. Their activities and volunteers. You can become a joint volunteer. You can become partners there, and many things you can do there over there. And so I am stopping this presentation right now, and I think you can. Thank you for the patient listening. I don't know whether I have taken more time, but I hope I have said something. I do not know what else. What I promised to Jamila teaches something else, but what I talked, I do not know.
Thank you, Dr. Shadi. That was a very, very interesting presentation. We would have loved to hear you for some more time, but we would like to open up a discussion. Actually, I was really intrigued by your notion of gender roles. I wondered why you, as a gender role for women, and what is happening. Are there more women thieves than men?
No. But that is actually, you are so sharp to find out that. In the sense, thieves, I am saying that less thieves.
Okay. No, because
In
you
that,
put it together with teachers.
No.
And,
I mean, the roles they are playing, the number of, if you take the analysis, if you take the data, the number of thieves, that is main.
Is that, no, my question is there any data that shows that it is going up?
Yeah.
Very sad state of affairs.
Yeah, it is. You can find out, but I have given some clues on that. You can find out.
Yeah, no, I was very interested in that, I just wanted to find out if there is a real increase in that.
There is.
Because we know that girls are getting into a lot of drug abuse and all that. So consequently,
Also, I'm not saying.
There is also a movement towards
solid now. I'm not saying any solid statement here, but you can find out. Just I open up. That's all.
No, my question was, because of you talked about discipline and indiscipline. So we are also factoring in this notion of indiscipline coming into, women and girls who have lost that discipline that they had when they were just homemade. I mean, that's a very big question, but something we should be thinking about. Thank you so much. It was such a informative talk, and I really enjoyed every bit of it. Thank you so much. And I'm sure all the participants here would also have collected a lot of information, and we would have loved to listen to you for some more time. Now the floor is open for questions. There's nothing in the chat box, so would you just unmute yourself and ask?
Can I talk, madam?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, Dr. Shaji, congratulations. You have made an excellent presentation covering entire aspects of this particular topic, which topic is very relevant and very important, no doubt about that. I also like to congratulate and appreciate the role played by the organization of this forum. They used to organize very useful talks and programs. I am one of the person who used to attend to the program because of Professor Jamila Begum. I thank them, and I like to congratulate Shaji and others for organizing this program. All the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Can I ask, sir? Jamila? Jamila?
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I'm Kamini. I'm a part of the Trivandrum branch. It was a very interesting presentation, sir. And actually, it is a very thought-provoking presentation too. And it is very sad to see that women are victims of all these disasters. In fact, I was in Chennai when the flood came. Of course, I was not in the area where the floods were there. But as women on that particular block of flats, you all gave food, clothing, etc., etc. And because we are all older people, I'm telling a very private thing. The women were saying that they can't even go to the bathroom because the men are looking at them all the time.
Yes.
So they were chasing them into the bathroom.
Yes.
In the camps. And funny, they were in the camp for a long time. It was quite a long time. Then after that only they were taken to some other areas, and they had a menstruation problem and they didn't have any clothing, and we distributed sanitary pad. But sanitary pad alone will not be enough. They need panties for that. So we had to give panties. So these are the problems that women face, and we always say women and children. We don't say men and children. We say women and children. So children are part of the women, and they are the people who are very much, that is, what do you say, there's a sort of a discrimination between men and women in these areas. I like your idea of giving, I was working in a women's college. I like the idea of giving them training on all these, how to face these disasters. It's a very good idea if we give it to the school children as well as the college children. And 2 days back, I read that one of the many families who were displaced from Afghanistan war, they had gone to Ukraine. So now
Yes.
they are displaced from there also. So there are
Yes.
2 displacements that they have to face. So it's a very uncertain future for them. And another thing, in the lighter way, you are talking about sex and all that, isn't it? There is no change in the sex, but now there are a lot of changes in the sex going on. Many people want, a few people want changes in their sex. So that is part of the culture now, I think. It is not, we cannot say that we cannot change the culture and all that. So that's all I wanted to say, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Dr. Shaji, would you like to respond?
No, thank you. I totally agree because, I also visited some of the camps. And there, the majority of the men, in fact, they were enjoying. They were enjoying even with liquor and things like that. So most of the women were, as Madam rightly pointed out, they were in a psychological trauma. Yeah, so that is a real situation in majority of the camps. Nobody is addressing that properly.
Yeah.
Even it is so pathetic that they do not go to the washrooms also. And I'm not saying that the men are enjoying, but even then they take it as okay, another home for them.
No, that was a complaint we received from the camps, when we
Actually, when these disasters happen, one of the reasons that women are reluctant to move from their homes is this. They do not have enough sanitary.
That is why the fatality is increasing, because they don't
facilities. Yeah, no sanitary facility, private sanitary facilities for women. And also, like you said, women are very hesitant to leave their homes because they are the homemakers, and they will stay back to collect their things before they will run out. Whereas men will just run out when they hear.
That's why you find a lot of deaths in that thing you're talking about, Laya, no? When women were in the houses. So they were with
in actually in Bangladesh and Philippines, mostly they don't run. Actually, they would like to take some of the important things.
Belonging.
At that time, the men would have been reached to these safer places.
Yes.
So if you read the examples of Philippines, Sri Lanka, and Bangladesh, you will realize that.
Anyone else would like to ask a question? Please unmute and ask.
Can I say something?
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm from Kozhikode. I'm Bhuneshwari. I totally agree with Dr. Kamini said, and sir, you also said about this flood victims and all. We have seen during the 2 floods in 18 and 19, in the camps, how the women suffer. So we have also done our bit from our branch, now, whatever we could, distributing like so many things. But then we have, as women, we have that, as sir said, that quality of resilience, we get over these things faster and try to move forward. That is the strength that women generally possess. So actually, women possess more strength to bear pain or sufferings than men. That's what I always have felt, and that's what is there. And of course, what was interesting, you said about redefining disaster to include the violence or attack on women and all. That's a very good thing. This is a disaster happening to men. It's not a natural disaster, man-made. It is man-made disaster, to say. So that was a very interesting point that you made. And of course, I mean, we could understand what is disaster and hazard, what is disaster and hazard. We think that is all the same. From what you said, we could understand that disaster is something different and hazard is something, it can be stopped, that capability, one can control it. So these are the things which we understood, and generally it was a very interesting talk. And thank you so much. And thank you so much for standing up for women and supporting the cause. Thank you.
Yeah. Like you said, that we need to rephrase that word, man-made disaster.
Yeah.
It would be more to say human-made disaster, because
Human-made
women
disaster.
are also playing a very,
That is
I
right.
would say, and not always a positive role. They are also playing negative. That is why I pointed out about the thieves. Women are also playing negative roles. You cannot make a glorious picture of women,
Yes.
because
Actually, there also,
happening.
the chauvinistic thing is man-made disaster, which is putting it on them itself.
I actually wanted to ask Dr. Shaji if the government is doing anything for violence against women at the home, like domestic violence. Like you say, it is a disaster. Now, if it is a disaster and it is so widespread, can the government do something in terms of rehabilitation of these women along positive routes?
Actually,
About
there
the
are
insurance that you talked about, no? If it was made mandatory for women who have been violated, abused, sent out of their homes,
Yeah.
because
Yes.
we see so many in Kerala now, not to mention India.
So actually, as you said, teacher, I talked in one of the seminars, such type of an idea. They said it's a very crazy idea of you, and I said, but why you want to bring it under the umbrella of disaster? They said, but I said, if you are saying that something which is beyond the coping capacity of a person or a community, that if that can be called as a disaster, why can't you call this also? Because they can't cope up with that. But they were not ready. Actually, there were a lot of discussions on that. But I deliberately put across this type of idea because we have to think in terms of that also.
Because a lot of women go on tolerating it because they have no other solution for it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
once
True.
they have a solution and the state or the panchayat or the corporation pitches in to help them out, I think there will be fewer of these tragedies happening.
Well, teacher, actually, when I go to some panchayat level talks, actually, some of them, when they are listening, because I used to talk in Malayalam also, when they are listening, they were so surprised. Actually, they don't know even any rule is there such that what is a disaster, what is the risk, and why a vulnerability, whether I am a vulnerable person. They are not aware of all these things. So such type of awareness class we should have. So we know something about it, but still our discussions are confined among the educated groups. So I personally believe that we also should penetrate down to them, and it should reach to them also. Lawmaking can come in course of time, but at least we should have some sort of lectures for them also, I believe so.
I totally agree. I think AIWC and the local branches should take this up.
Yeah.
Dr. Shaji can help us out in these classes so that
no issues. I think,
and even your students, you can send them out to talk about this awareness to women and make them also play a positive role in the management of a crisis. I think that is also important. Just as you say that the more women die, you should also be able to make women as the playing a role, a positive role in these crisis. I think that is what we women should be talking about. not all the time talking about gender equality, but rather how we can play a positive role. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we have a, sorry.
Yes.
But we have a Women Protection Act also, against domestic violence.
Yeah.
2005, that is also there.
But there is no rehabilitation of
Right.
domestic violence. There is no state or any body protecting them and saying, you come out and we will put you up, put you up in a small business.
Only temporarily.
We had a lawyer talking to us that day.
Yeah.
I think Usha had arranged a talk,
Mr. Mohan, Advocate Mohan.
He was everything. We do not know what these rules are.
But there is an act, Domestic Violence Act, and there's a Women Protection Officer in every district. We had the Women Protection Officer of Trivandrum talking to us, what's her name? Jija.
Yeah.
I listened to that talk. Actually, I was there for that talk also. I remember one of the comments that was made is that women are afraid to come out in the open and talk about the harassment at home, because they are afraid when they go back, they will get beaten more. There is a side to it.
No, but in that talk, Jija had mentioned a lot of avenues where these women can reach out for help. And we are actually in the process of preparing a directory with all the helpline numbers and all the agencies who can come to their help. But because of COVID, we could not finalize it. But we hope to come out with that very soon.
Usha, that is a good move, but what I am saying is that, all right, you save them from that domestic violence, but what happens after that? After that, are we able to set them up so that they become economically independent, they are able to look after themselves?
No, there are short stay homes. Even AIWC, we have short stay homes in many states.
No.
And there, what happens is you're supposed to train them or rehabilitate them. And it is the problem arises when they move out of the short stay homes. We cannot keep them indefinitely.
Yeah.
So we are doing a little service in that sector in Delhi, because we have this working women's hostel. So the girls who come to the short stay home, they are educated or given skill training, and they get jobs, and then we give them accommodation in the hostel at very, very subsidized rates, which they can afford, and then they can stay on there in a safe environment. But such facilities must be more widespread. Only then it will become practical. Everywhere we should have such facilities.
If there are no questions or any comments, shall we ask Usha to do the formal vote of thanks, since Usha is here? Usha, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Jamila. And thank you, Dr. Shaji, for that wonderful session. We learned a lot of new things. And especially that last website that you mentioned, which I think all of us should go and see what is mentioned there and what are the practical things that we can take up, like imparting training to the women and making them prepared for the various types of disasters. And also, we could take up some studies to see what are the problems faced by these women in the camps. Because all of us have faced, we have been told by the women in the camps of the different types of problems that are there. So we can do something to inform the authorities about such problems, and then how we can help to overcome these problems. That is one area maybe the branches can take up. We can talk to the authorities and to the women who are, there are many camps which are still continuing. Even 2018 flood displaced people, some of them continue in camps. So the problems that they are facing, especially the young girls and the women. So maybe we could take up that. So thank you, Dr. Shaji, and I thank all the participants, AIWC members, as well as others who have joined us. And now I think we are having a regular group of people who are not from AIWC, but who are joining us regularly. Thank you so much. And all the non-member women who are joining us, I would request them to please become part of AIWC, become a member of one of our branches, and help us in these activities. That will be really nice. So thank you, and thank you, Bhuneshwari, and Jamila, especially to you for continuing this for 15 months now, 16 months actually, and we have conducted 15 lectures, and the credit goes wholly to you, I would say. Thank you so much. On behalf of Trivandrum branch, I thank you. And thanks everyone. So I think now we can end this meeting, and we'll meet again next month. And I think we'll make it the first Friday of every month, isn't it, Jamila? Yeah. Earlier we were doing it on the first Thursday.
We'll keep it like that, yes.
So now we'll stick to the first Friday, because many people were confused and they missed out on 1 or 2 lectures because we had shifted it to Friday. So now we'll continue to have these lectures on the first Friday of every month. So hope to see you all at the next lecture. Thank you and goodbye.
Okay, thank you all, and thank you, Dr. Shaji.